What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I'm going to be previewing It Chapter 2. Now, It Chapter 2 releases in theaters on September 6, 2019. So, this is the epic conclusion, really, to only a two-part movie series, right? But It Chapter 2, I think a lot of people are very, very excited for this film. I'm even excited for this film, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to see it in theaters for various reasons. But It Chapter 2, I feel like has a lot going for it, and very few, in my opinion, concerns, although there are a couple. One of the most fascinating things I find with this movie, just straight off, right off the bat, is that this is one of the only films, and I look at films a lot. I look at like casting, I look at just a lot of movies. I feel like my knowledge of films has really grown exponentially since getting into this YouTube channel. This is one of the only films I can remember that it kind of has that situation where, it was going from the first movie to the second movie, and they had to cast characters as, like, their older selves. And so you needed new actors or actresses for that. And literally the people that the audience or the just people like us kind of put forward immediately when that film came out, they really became who they picked. I remember people literally a few days, to maybe even the day that the 2017's It came out, that people were saying Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader, James McAvoy. I remember people throwing those names out saying, like, these are like the picks. These are who you have to pick as these characters. And maybe they're obvious. Maybe like the mannerisms of them and them being big names and them kind of, again, reflecting not just looks but personality and stuff like that. Maybe they were easy choices, but they literally, almost all of them became the character. And they're more than just those three, but those were the big three and the rest of them. And they became the characters. And you look at it, then like a year later, they started filming, they announced the cast, and it's just all of the names that people had thrown out as them. So I feel like that's one thing they got going for them. Literally, this is the dream cast. You look at YouTube channels, you look at YouTube videos, we've even done it where we've casted movies before, like The Last of Us movie that maybe one day will come out, or the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland. We did that a while ago, I think, before we even knew Tom Holland was casted. And you look at those videos and it's like, this is kind of the cumulative people. This is really what the majority of people thought of as the people they wanted to see, and literally now they get to see it on the big screen. I feel like that is something they got going for them. Bill Skarsgård, phenomenal as Pennywise in general. This movie looks very scary. This movie looks very freaky. This movie, I feel like, is going to replicate the success in a lot of ways of the original It. It made $700 million. I believe at the time it was the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. That is big, and it's horror. It's not. I was gonna say it's pure horror. Not necessarily. It's not the scariest movie in the world, but it's just generally a fantastic film. The biggest concern, really the only concern, but it does kind of cover the entire film, is I feel like it's kind of known, or at least in my opinion, this is how I feel, is that It Chapter 2, or like the second part, the adult version, the 27 years later, generally has the weaker content. Now, maybe that's not true. Maybe you don't agree with that. Maybe the books do it better. But I think generally, and even if you look at the TV show, which, you could argue which was, if it was good or bad. I know a lot of people definitely did not like that second part. Again, the adult version. The second version, or the adult version, generally is weaker. Okay? And I don't know if that's going to be the case here. What I will say is my own expectations, and I did not see the first It in theaters, I did see it though, just by me, just where I'm kind of judging this movie on, the trailers for It Chapter 2 don't get me like the first movie did, the trailers of the first movie. So, I don't know if that says anything. That's just my own personal opinion. Do I think this movie is going to be a flop? Do I think this movie is going to be bad? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't think that. Do I think it's going to be as good as the first film? That's harder. It's harder to repeat success. People build up their expectations for these kind of things. These are in no way comparisons, okay? They're not in the same even scope of things as It. So don't judge me on these things. But two movies that have recently done this to me is Zombieland and Jumanji. Jumanji, I thought, was a phenomenal film, and this new Jumanji film coming out, I guess I built my expectations up so high, the trailer just didn't do it for me. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. Zombieland, the first movie, I don't think is even that amazing of a film. I think it's a very good film, but I don't think it's like the greatest film ever. The second, the Zombieland Double Tap, and we'll be having previews of both those films, by the way. That trailer comes out. It looks good. It doesn't, again, look like, I feel like maybe my expectations are just too high. Same thing maybe here. Maybe I just thought, I'm waiting for that thing to grab me. And so far, again, from these trailers, there's been terrifying parts of these trailers. There's been really cool sequences in general in these trailers. We all know what happens in general. It's just what they're telling of the story is going to be. But we generally know how these things are going to go. If you've read the books or if you've seen the TV show, you know where this is going. It's just going to be very interesting because we kind of knew where the first movie was going as well. And it just worked. It was scary. It was fantastic in terms of storytelling, in terms of how they shot it. The horror aspects were really, really well done. They did some things very, very differently, and they all, I believe, worked. The characters, all very, very solid. I think that was a problem with the TV show, where the characters, just in general, weren't the greatest. We'll see now. I feel like it's a better cast of actors and actresses for this movie than it was for the TV show. I think just generally. Obviously, the production budget's higher. Everything, is on a different level. That's for sure. I'm not going to put down the TV show for that. That's out of their control. They have a chance here to do something very, very special. Does this film make more than the first It? It's possible. I feel like when you look at this year, people are, like I said in the very beginning of this video, people are very excited. And you look at September, to me, there's nothing. I really don't think there's anything that's really stands out in September besides It. It really takes until, I believe, I think the fall is a pretty weak time for movies this year. I think it's uncharacteristically very weak. I mean, we have movies in November like Frozen. We have Zombieland in October. We have Maleficent in October. December's Jumanji and Star Wars. There's big films. There's films that may get $1 billion. There's films that will get close to getting $1 billion. I mean, we're going to see some very big films this fall. That's for sure. We just got past The Lion King and Spider-Man. But and my point here is that I think that drives people to see It, because there's really not a lot else out there. Again, one of the biggest things, though, is the R rating, is the horror, and that does that stop some people from going? It certainly does. I don't think it stops as many as people thought. Again, I think that's what was always kind of off-putting about giving your movie an R rating in terms of comedies, in terms of action movies. And you saw Deadpool kind of break that wall. It broke a lot of walls in those movies, but it broke that wall to do it. Logan did it, and they proved that you can earn a significant amount of money with that rating, that just because this movie is terrifying, it won't stop people from seeing it. So I feel like this movie can make more. I feel like this movie is a $700 to $800 million movie, and that would beat, all it has to do is beat $700 million. I think $700.8 million was how much the first one made, $700.7. So I think the odds are pretty high, because I do think the anticipation for this film, and especially, again, to see if they can get it right. The only other time we've gotten this was a TV show, or the TV movie. Maybe if I call it a TV show, I didn't mean it. Please don't hate me. Don't dislike the video. I understand they were movies, but that was the only other time, and I think that let a lot of people down because it just wasn't up to snuff. And this is their chance on the big screen. They could maybe do this again in 10, 15 years, I guess, but this is really their chance here to do something very, very special. They already did it. They already made the first It 2017 very, very special. Now is their time to show that they can do it back-to-back, that they can make this sequel definitely worth seeing, and not just that, but that they can actually close the story out, do this second part, do the adult version, and do it very, very well, do it justice. And I think they will. I honestly feel like this movie is going to be very, very solid. It may have less to do with scares. Maybe it's a little less terrifying. Again, now the first movie was all that terrifying. Did it have very scary moments? Yeah, I personally think it did. Maybe you see a lot of horror movies, maybe it didn't get you, but I thought it did a lot of very clever horror things that not necessarily the tropes of horror, right? We'll see how the second one does. We'll see if they rely on the same kind of mechanics the first one did, or if they kind of switch it up entirely. I feel like that's what you have to do, and as long as your film director and everybody on board is smart, that's what it will do. So I think It Chapter 2 stands a very good chance. I'm very excited for this movie. Whether or not I see it depends on a child. I have a child, so she is not seeing it. If somebody watches this child, then I will indeed see the movie. Mostly, hopefully. Again, I may just be too scared to do it. I don't like to see horror films in theaters that much. Call me a baby. Again, dislike the video if you have to. But guys, that is my opinion on this film. That's my preview of It Chapter 2. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this film. What are you anticipating for this film? Are you going to see it? All things like that. Let me know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And thank you, as always, for watching. I hope to see you on the next movie preview.